Welcome to Java. Thank you for joining me. It is January 7th, 2024. It is Tuesday. We're getting into the trading week. Now, it is short trading week because it will be closed on Thursday. However, we'll have our Discord, our first discussion of the year, tomorrow evening. So if you need a link to the Discord, please reach out to me if you're not already in there. So that should be very interesting. We've got a lot of things going on. Early this morning, some global political changes, namely in Canada. The Prime Minister Trudeau has announced that he is going to be stepping down and they will be having new elections to see who his replacement will be. So we've got a lot of other things going on, a lot of weather. Hopefully, you're all staying warm. Now, this weather is affecting prices of natural gas as well as oil, demand spiking not just in the United States, but also some major storms in Europe, disrupting travel as well. So, with this, let's go into the markets. Our favorite risk indicator, the MMRI, is at 311.5. So this is not much different from yesterday. There were some fluctuations yesterday. The markets are still continuing their pattern of the institutions, what it appears, selling into the pups. Now, as it opens, the markets have been going green for the first hour or so. And as the volume dives off a little bit, we're watching selling into it. They drop a bit and then head back up to recover toward the end of the day, back when volume increases. So to me, this is an instability that is showing a continued weakness in this market, even though it's still holding on green levels. It doesn't have nearly the strength or underlying that it should. Now, yesterday was mostly on the chip stocks again. There were some announcements from NVIDIA about a new chipset for gaming. So with this, we've got fear greed meter still increasing. More retailers coming back into this market as the holidays are kind of closing out. So the general sentiment right now is still to buying the dips with the side of anxiety because there I'm beginning to sense more panic in the middle of the day as these sell-offs are occurring. So again, we do have this short week as it is closed Thursday the 9th for the former president. Now, the elements of the MMRI, relative strength of the dollar has pulled back. It was hitting close to $1.09, and this is a major factor in what's going on globally between the trade. If you are familiar with Brent from AU Capital, he has proposed what he calls the milkshake theory. And the summary of it all, if you will, is that the dollar as the reserve currency will act as a wrecking ball to the other currencies first and drink their milkshakes, if you will, pulling the power and sucking all of the strength out of the other currencies and exporting United States inflation in the process. Now, I agree with this. We do differ on thoughts with a few other things. However, that is kind of currently what we're witnessing. Talk about that in a bit. Now, the 10-year yield has also pulled back a little bit. So this is giving a little bit of breath back into the markets, but it's still at a level that is kind of a danger zone. We've got cryptocurrencies kind of popped yesterday, Bitcoin back above 100,000. It is kind of confirming this level. So could go up to the 106, 107 level. We're going to be watching this. It's pulling other cryptocurrencies up with it. So cryptocurrency is kind of a speculative, but also kind of turning into a fear trade. So with this, we've got the classic fear trade is gold. Gold in the volatility index up this morning, as well as oil, kind of hit close to that $75 mark yesterday. That's on the energy play. Now, also boosting Bitcoin was again MicroStrategy with Michael Saylor kicking off 2025 with 1,070 Bitcoins purchasing back into MicroStrategy. So that's kind of a recurring theme with the investments of his company, selling off loans against it and purchasing more. So looking at stocks currently, we're looking at a green open as it appears, and then also futures, a little bit shaky because they're looking at the green, but they're really flat. This is not much movement here on still showing the gold and silver crude oil plays. Now, when these three move forward together, they're more showing, first off, bit of a fear trade, but secondly, they're also showing uh, you can call it several things, the inflation trade, or now the current way to call it is a debasement trade, debasing the currency. Doesn't matter what you call it, that's inflation at play. So with these, we've got a lot more to cover in the calendar this morning. We're getting the trade deficit, ISM, and job openings. So we're really watching the unemployment or employment, depending on your side of which way you want to call it, because it's the next Fed mover for the rate cuts. Now, there is less of a chance that they're going to continue with the rate cuts if you look at the odds. Now, I think they're still going to be cutting rates, but if they do, it's going to show trouble ahead because despite the inflation that is incoming, we're in a period of stagflation. And if unemployment numbers increase, they will not be able to ignore that. So these are the earnings we're going to be hearing from. Not much at the moment, larger companies, but we are heading into that season again. Now, what is below a lot of this is really the currency moves. As I was just speaking about the strength of the United States dollar, keyed in with the debt and the yield on the debt. So purchasing between that balance of debt and the dollar, kind of working like a trading wheel, if you will, for the rest. Now we've got the credit market signaling warning for what they're calling a relentless equity rally. And this is because stocks have not had a pullback or real correction in quite some time. So they're talking about the earnings yield, very high relative to debt yields. Now, this is kind of pushing out into global markets. And how are we watching this? Valuation, this is talking about European stocks, but it's not just European stocks, but also Asian stocks. Never been more extreme in accordance with Deutsche Bank. So we're getting more of these large movers and large banks watching this currency trade and the inconsistencies and, if you will, the major issues that are coming forward with this. Now, these are causing arbitration opportunities between the currencies, but it's also shifting to what we're looking at with that Japanese yen carry trade. So with this, we've got Japan warning again speculative foreign exchange moves after the yen dropped to a 6-month low. So piling back in, didn't learn the first time, growing again. This is going to be an issue at some point in time. Not likely today. However, there's warnings, and I'm watching this possibly toward the end of the week. Again, markets closed on Thursday, so kind of looking at this for very possible move Friday. We'll keep an eye on that. With this, but also crushing other Western currencies. Vietnam also watching their dong as it fell to record. So, with all of this massive distortion in these markets between the currencies, they're in a race to the bottom. And as these race to the bottom to devalue, that is pretty much the definition of inflation that is doing this. So, more inflation ahead. So, with this inflation, prices, if it's priced in dollars, will increase in their price. That includes the stock market and equities increasing. So, this crush and reverse is still in the works somewhere down the road. Now, we've got the world's fourth most populous country joining BRICS. This was just confirmed by Brazil because they're now the chair. Indonesia has now become a full-fledged member. Now, they've got different levels of membership, and Indonesia fully diving into this. And the issue with this one is that Indonesia is one of the major trading partners in manufacturing. So They are a driver of this manufacturing for inexpensive goods and labor. So with this, that's going to create another imbalance. United States still dealing with trade deficit. So another side that's got to be balanced out. Now, with all of this on the monetary and the accounting portion of it, we've got banks. Now they're showing warning signals through their deposit costs. So they're dropping their deposit costs. This is showing basically they can't have any loan growth, and this is their product, loan growth and debt. So they're going to have more, as I've been saying, more mergers still in the works, more mergers, more acquisitions, more foreclosures. We're going to watch in corporate bankruptcies hitting 14-year high because their interest rates, they can't handle them through the businesses. We had Amarant, it was another small community bank. They unloaded their mortgage portfolio, $12.6 million loss. That's a major loss for a community bank. So more mergers, more acquisitions, and more closures of banks that will sell all of their assets for pennies on the dollar, like this one did. And who's purchasing these but the larger mega banks? So we're going to see JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, all growing as these all shut. Your community banks are going down the tubes. Now, with this, there's very interesting development. We've got Michael Barr. Now, he's the Fed's top regulator. He has sent in his letter of resignation, and he's kind of stating that this is an attempt by the incoming administration to remove him, could be a distraction for the Fed. Now, what does he mean by this? What is the underlying part of this? He's saying he plans to retain his seat on the board of governors. I think there's a lot of underlying corruption here, and that's what he's saying could be the distraction because he is supposed to be the main regulator. Now, this is kind of a misnomer. They're self-regulating. So it's the fox in charge of the hen house, in short. So he's stepping down. That's a warning sign. And this is very quietly happening in the background. Nobody's paying attention to this. So at any rate, I'm going to move on. A couple of things I just want to bring up. First off, these are not related to the markets, but we've got New York becoming the first United States city to introduce congestion charging. Now, it's kind of set up as a toll. And they had something similar happen in the UK. They had what they called Blade Runners, with a nickname, taking down these cameras for something very similar. But theirs was more with the green movement, that they wanted energy vehicles. Now, New York kind of moving this similar direction. So we'll see how that goes on. We've also got North Korea saying they tested hypersonic missile range aimed at remote, quote unquote, remote Pacific targets. So, kind of a lot more saber rattling here. They're saying it's their version of the Oreshnik. I doubt that. They don't have near the capabilities that Russia has with this. It's kind of, in my mind, a way to downplay what Russia actually has. So, can't say much about that. Hopefully, they'll still play this video. But with this, wish you a green trading day. Wonderful day in general. Miss you all terribly, and until I see you again, my friends, stay free.